Hey, good morning, everyone. Nandish Madapadi, and welcome to the manufacturing webinar in the year 2021. Very warm welcome and Happy New Year as well. So we have quite a bit of topics to cover today. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. So obviously we want to say who we are and obviously want to do a company introduction. And then based upon that, we'll spend some time because of the COVID-19 situation. A lot of things have changed. And what has those trends and challenges? How has that impacted? What are the CIOs looking for going into 2021, 2022? And in particularly, we'll start isolating that mostly on the business processes, because that is the area in which we can help as a company to all of the various manufacturing companies. And then we will switch over to a hands-on demonstration of the Creatio platform, which will be super focused on machine learning and also from a low-code business process side. And depending upon how much time we have, we will also take some Q&A. And then here's a official welcome from my side. My name is Nandish Madapadi. I'm the Enterprise Solution Manager. I have about 20 years of work experience. To be honest with you, I started my career 20 years ago in Detroit, Michigan. So I have quite a bit of manufacturing experience. I've visited many plants, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, you name it. So I have extensive experience understanding from an engineering perspective, what are the manufacturing companies' challenges. And then lately, I've been moving to the CRM side, and also in the last 2-3 years at Creatio, I've been immersed in the low-code technology. So I understand the full scope of how we can enable manufacturing companies to continue to make their companies more efficient. Now, moving on to the next slide, this is about Creatio as a company. For people who are not familiar with Creatio as a company, we've been in existence for a quite long time. We are a multinational company with offices all over the globe, with our headquarters based out here in Boston, Massachusetts. Over half of our company employees are strictly in the product development, which is awesome, because when you're a smaller company, and you're super focused on product development, and especially as a Creatio, as a platform, we are an end-to-end, very much like Apple, if you will, where we control the entire ecosystem, whether it comes from marketing, sales, service, and also from a low-code technology perspective. So what that enables us to do is it develops us to deliver a high-quality product, and that has been recognized by industry analysts like Gartner and Forrester. Right. So what that means is when Gartner looks at company like Creatio, we are able to be compared against the likes of Oracle's, SAP, Microsoft, and Salesforce, which are a much bigger organizations, but because of the great superior technology and the high quality of technology that Creatio offers, we've been measured in the same way as them. So for example, from a Gartner perspective, both on the lead management and on the Salesforce automation, we are in the leader quadrant, very much like those companies that I mentioned. But that's not all. We are also in the customer engagement centers, which would be on the service side. We are also the low-code application platform for a while now. And also, Forrester in their waves is also describing the same thing. So for example, from a dynamic case management, healthcare, which we started showing up last year as well. So you can see that from a technology perspective, we not only cover the elements of CRM, business process, but we can also go into vertical solutions, whether that be financial services or healthcare. So with that background, let's jump into the topic of today, which is manufacturing industries, and what are some of the trends and challenges that those industries are facing, especially in 2021, which is another challenging year that is coming right out of 2020. Now, nobody needs to be told about what the negative impact of COVID-19 has been on many, many companies across the world. Nobody anticipated this. We all thought that this was going to last for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but it's lasted all of 2020 and even in 2021. But the good news, however, is that in spite of all of this, by 2022, we are supposed to come back in about a year or so. We are supposed to come back to the original levels of 2019, which means that we are in the upward trend, right? But the overall impact has been across the world, from automotive, from aerospace, simply because travel has been restricted. People are afraid to buy stuff, whether that be electronics or whatever it is. Now, of course, there has been some bright spots like, technology in California or Tesla that is on the automotive side are bright stars, but overall industry has had a contractions overall. But what does that actually mean for companies looking forward, right? Now that we know that pandemic can happen, we understand that pandemic has had a negative impact. That doesn't mean that humans don't adapt. And that's basically the element of human nature, right? We understand, we see the risk, and then we find out or overcome those risks by coming up with solutions around it. So when we talk to the CIOs, and when I mean we, I'm talking about our partners like Gartner, McKinsey's, and people that we rely on to give us some industry trends. They're noticing that despite everything that is going on, the CIOs are continuing to accelerate the digital transformation projects inside their companies. And I mean this for the manufacturing, not retail, not telecom. That is also happening, but this is also happening on the manufacturing side. And why is that? I saw a joke last year on LinkedIn, which said that when asked the question for the CIO, what is the reason, sole reason you're accelerating digital transformation? And the number one answer was COVID-19, because all of a sudden, what was in the back of the back burner have come up into the front burner, mainly because that has had a devastating impact on their businesses, right? So we're talking about automation, we're talking about resiliency in supply chain, we're talking about compliance, as much automation as possible, understanding the business processes and making them much more compliant and resilient to some of those shocks that we saw. So this is all backed up by data, as you can see from Gartner's and McKinsey's. So now that we understand that the CIOs are overcoming those challenges, what are their key focus? What are some of the areas in which they are focused on? So you can kind of break it up into different buckets. But when you start looking at it, it really is all about making things autonomous, right? We hear this word over and over again. Autonomous cars, autonomous vehicles, autonomous factories, smart factories, AI, machine learning, virtual reality, 3D printing. These are all buzzwords that are happening. And to be honest with you, this is something that I myself, I'm seeing this when I'm speaking to many of our prospects. So for example, last year we were talking to, this is actually during the pandemic, we were talking to somebody who manufactures ATM machines, and these ATM machines are being, sold to many of these banks, obviously, because many banks are also closing those branches, right? For example, I live in Groton, Massachusetts. We had a Bank of America. They closed that branch, and everything is done through an ATM machine, which accepts cash. I can deposit checks. I can do everything that I was able to do so in the branch. I can do that in the ATM machine. But now, since it's a machine, now they have to predict maintenance. They have to understand if the machine breaks down, there is nothing that can go on. Like they are completely blank. So what we are trying to do was to insert the sensor technology inside of those ATMs and have some signals sent into Creatio, so that if ATM were to run out of cash, for example, or if the ATM were to break down for whatever reason, it would automatically create a case in the CRM system, and that would trigger a workflow for the field technician to go and visit that particular ATM and do the necessary scheduling, so that the amount of time it would go down would be minimized as much as possible. That is what we talk about Internet of Things, right? The AI driven deployment of analytics. So you'll see that from from a Creatio perspective, understanding when a customer calls and they're talking about a particular product line, based on historical data using machine learning, are you able to predict what are the likelihood of other products that the customer is looking for? You can do that on the manufacturing side as well. What would that example be? Well, we can talk about warranties, right? Whenever, and you see this all the time when you buy a expensive phones, Apple iPhones or Samsung, or if you go to electronics retailer, they will say, hey, do you want to buy a warranty? These are all predictions that is recommended through machine learning to make sure that there is an additional revenue stream that is coming through. And this is a huge revenue stream for manufacturing companies, supply chain, spare parts. You're talking about those critical revenue growth for them as well, right? And immersive experience, this is, we are talking about virtual reality or augmented reality. How, and if you go to these days into retailers, like Wayfair is a good example of that. When you buy a furniture from them, they will say that, hey, if you place this in your room, you will see how that furniture looks like in your living area. That gives you a little bit more understanding about, is this a good fit for my house or not. So we're talking about virtual reality, augmented reality. 3D printing, obviously coming from a manufacturing background for me, 3D printing was a great thing. We were doing a lot of weight reductions in my previous company that I worked at, but then manufacturing those was becoming very complex, and 3D printing can enable those. Um, uh, it can enable those because in 3D printing you are actually adding materials, whereas in traditional manufacturing, whether you're talking about lathe, you're talking about milling operations or grinding operations, you're actually reducing materials. So therefore, 3D printing is like a game changer in manufacturing industry. And of course, smart factory, everything is connected, having just in time, which is something that was pioneered by the Japanese, is obviously is a given these days. So those are all the trends that is going on. But you can see that this is happening on the macro level, right? This is not strictly restricted to CRM. This is not strictly restricted to ERP. We are looking at it from a CIO perspective to say that how can we make our factories more smarter and things like that. Now, that is one thing. Having goals is one thing, but then it all boils down to, is this really happening in reality, right? This is where when you talk to the when Gartner was talking to the CIOs and understanding what kind of budget should we expect and what are the technologies in which you expect those budgets to go through. And by the way, are you expecting these budgets to remain the same? Are you going to increase them or are you going to decrease them, right? You can see that at the very bottom, you have RPA, workflow automation, optimization technologies, things that we play in as Creatio. That is actually either 68% of the CIOs are saying that, yeah, we expect the same budget as last year, which is a good thing. On top of that, 24% is actually saying, hey, we are actually going to increase, we're going to double down on those technologies because we are now seeing value in rapid deployment of low-code applications. We are seeing value in automating as much as possible because it not only helps us eliminate unnecessary manpower, but it also makes us more compliant and makes it ourselves a more disciplined company because we are following through all of the protocols that is out there. In addition to that, cloud-based technologies like ERP and CRM are going through the roof. I myself has been been participant of that, right? Because I've seen a lot of companies that are looking at ERP or CRM or a homegrown CRM solutions that they built in 2000 that is no longer working for them. And now they not only want to replace that CRM solutions using Creatio, but they also want that on the cloud so that it's very easily scalable for them as well. And AI is a given, right? AI is a given these days. Like we use that extensively in Creatio, whether that comes from a product forecasting, whether we are talking about identifying who's the best person to work on a particular situation, whatever that may be. Those things are already given. Now, moving on to the next slide, we'll talk about those challenges and what is preventing the CIOs from changing this happening overnight, right? Because if you want to invest in low-code technologies, if you want to invest in workflow automation, if you want to invest in AI, then you need data, right? And the problem with data is that with the current companies is that the data is happening is sitting in many locations, right? So for example, because of historical data, sales data is sitting somewhere else. Supply chain data is sitting somewhere else. Marketing data is sitting in another platform. How do you connect all of those data together is extremely important. On top of that, this data is not only sitting in different silos, but they're also sitting in outdated products, those products that don't work anymore. You're talking about, applications that look like 1998 America Online kind of interface, such an outdated interface because it's so difficult to get out of them. And then, of course, you want to scale them at the same time because as your business scales up, you should be able to scale your applications You're talking about millions of customer data, product data, or opportunity data, so on and so forth. But at the same time, you also need it to be secure, right? You don't want to have a security breach, and that in turn has a negative impact on the business and, of course, on the brand itself. And then finally, there is disaster recovery, right? This is something coming from a cloud-based solution at Creatio. We are asked this all the time. Well, what happens if your data center is located in Miami and then there is a hurricane in Miami? What happens then? Is your data also a copy of that is sitting somewhere in sunny California? That way, if the data center in Florida were to go down, we can still continue to do our business because that data is securely sitting somewhere in California. So you can have different geographical data. And so therefore, from a business continuity and from disaster recovery, you are covered. So this is where all of those things come in together. Now we'll hyper focus ourselves on the business processes right now, correct? So far we have looked at it from a macro perspective, understanding from a smart factory, Internet of Things, machine learning, AI. Now all of that is coming down into business processes. The first step, one of the first trends, obviously, is a synergy of low code and business process. Now, this is an important topic for me as well, because when I came to Creatio about more than two years ago, low code was something that was, you know, it was a buzzword, but it wasn't really mainstream, if you ask me. But these days, when I talk to prospects, low code is a given. People are talking about business processes, but they not only want to do business processes, but they also want to do that in a very efficient, easy to deploy, easy to develop low code technologies, right? So we are talking about business processes. We are talking about customer onboarding. We are talking about employee onboarding. We are talking about recruiting. We are talking about vendor management. Any business processes that manufacturing companies have to go through, contract management, supply chain management, warehouse management, all of those are different processes that is handled by different teams. How quickly can you use this drag and drop technology? As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, these are all workflows using simulated diagrams, and underneath each of that there is a code that is running different processes in the background, right? The idea here is that we are synchronizing and we're making this standardized across the organization. So irrespective of the experience level of the worker, whether they have a 3-month work experience or 30 years of work experience, everybody is following this step by step, and there is no compliance issue, there is no inefficiency issues, because everybody is following the same guidelines. And the low code, what it actually does is that because it requires very little programming skills, the business analysts themselves can do that without the help of the IT team. Therefore, they will be able to develop these applications very rapidly and deploy this in a matter of days, as opposed to waiting for IT, explaining to them what that business process should look like, build it in a very complex systems like C# or .NET framework, not know what is going on. And then if you want to make modifications to that, you simply have to go back to the IT team again and then wait for a longer time for that applications to get updated. And that is the power of low code and BPM, right? Now, having those business processes is great, and everything is done. It also results in a lot of data, right? So when those kinds of data happen, then we are talking about what kind of insights that you can do. And this is where AI, and by definition also by extension machine learning, can come and help us. When you have a lot of data, then you can derive a lot of insights on that. So when you're looking at it from a historical, looking at in the back and saying that, hey, what kind of products did we sell last year from manufacturing companies? Then we can use that data to predict our warehouse inventory stock, right? Or to say that which are the products that we need to continue to manufacture more, which are the products we need to retire going forward. Those kinds of things. In addition to that, we can talk about customer delivery dates. We can talk about customer likelihood of buying a product, right? Likelihood of a machine going down based upon case management. How many cases are coming from a particular ATM? Maybe that is a ATM that has issues, so maybe we need to replace that with something else. So those kinds of predictive maintenance, case management, we can easily use AI to make some predictions of complex things. Now, on the machine learning side, this is a question that often comes: what's the difference between AI and machine learning? AI is a little bit more broader term, where machine learning is a little bit more subset of that is being used um, um, within the context of a CRM a CRM platform. So what I mean is AI could be Internet of Things, it can be Siri, it can be many other things. But in machine learning, we are specifically talking about Creatio data sets and then being able to make some predictions, right? We are talking about product recommendations. We use this extensively within our CRM platform because when a customer calls in, say about a manufacturing, then we can say, hey, listen, do you want to buy some warranty? Well, do you want to buy some spare parts, right? So making that predictions to say that, well, this product is going to likely break down in, say, 6 months or 1 year from now on, or they would need a air filter, they would need a new brackets or whatever that may be. And then being able to create those leads automatically at the right time so that the sales reps can simply follow up and then do additional sales. So you can do a lot of those things very easily using machine learning instead of Creatio. And then, of course, workflow automation. This is a subset, I would say, of business process. The idea here is that when you automate as much workflows as possible, a good example of this would be, say, when you onboard a new supplier or a new vendor, they may have to go through some necessary protocols of going through some training classes. They may have to do certain paperwork. Now, if you can automatically send out those paperwork through emails, DocuSign integrations, you're reducing a lot of those manual work. Because there's a lot of these automations are taking care of somebody going in and saying that, well, we didn't send this. The vendor may be saying that, hey, we are waiting on this particular packet to be sent to us. It has not been sent out because that person is on vacation. Now you are getting rid of those unnecessary inefficiency gains, and therefore those workflow automations is a good way to reduce those inefficiencies and continue to reduce cost. And then finally, of course, from a solution perspective, cloud is becoming more and more important. From a scalability and security perspective as well, I told you about this. So if you need to increase your size of the organization, goes from, say, 10,000 to 20,000 and you need additional licenses, it's very easy to do those in cloud solutions. You just go to AWS and Azure and then buy additional data centers. There is no upfront capital costs that you need to invest. You need to set it up, and all of those. That is all done by vendor management. The vendors is going to take care of it. If your business on the other hand is going down, which would be a bad thing, but still, if it were to go down, or if it was a seasonal business, then you can scale up or scale down your business depending upon the seasonality of your business itself. So those are all good things that is enabled because of the cloud solutions. So those are all the 5 trends, particularly focused on the CRM, low-code business processes that manufacturing companies are looking for. So let's take a look at Creatio now and how Creatio enables solving those problems. So as most of you already are aware of, and if you're not, then Creatio is a unique solution that enables 3 things. Number one, it comes with a strong business process engine that you can use in any business processes. And I don't mean it from a marketing, sales, or service. I'm talking about employee onboarding. I'm talking about recruitment. I'm talking about a vacation request. I'm talking about invoice management, contract management. You name it, you can actually build a business process inside of Creatio. That's number one. Number two is you can not only build that, but you can actually use low code to do so, which is another unique proposition that Creatio offers. So what that means is that the business owners themselves can build those business processes without bringing in IT resources, or at least bringing in a razor thin IT team to help them do so. And thirdly, Creatio is also a unified CRM. Now, why is that important? Well, that is important because it brings different lines of businesses together. Like, company cannot operate in isolation. Companies should work in a very frictionless manner between sales, marketing, and service, so that no matter how your customers are coming from, whether it is marketing, after sales, or talking to the salesperson themselves, you are able to take the most number of revenue out of them, increased wallet share, as the case may be. And having that unified customer database is going to enable you to do that. Now, when you couple that with workflows and low code on top of that, then you can do pure magic using Creatio. So what are some of the key areas in which Creatio has been used in low-code business process and CRM? You can take it from on the left-hand side. You can see that we go from lead to cash, right? And then it's further divided from lead to opportunity, opportunity to order, and then order to cash. And then there are different business processes underneath each of that. Then there is also after sales, service and customer support, that is about field service, customer service, and then internally, of course, you need to make sure that your employees are happy. So from a human capital perspective as well, you need to make sure that your employees are empowered and they have all of those information at their fingertips to be providing the best experience to your customers at the end of the time, right? So if you then move on to the middle part of it, you'll then see that there are different business processes, right? And I talked about invoicing management, I talked about opportunity management, campaign management, forecasting, you name it, we have business processes, and you can all of that using low-code technologies, right? And that has been the power of how Creatio is enabling best practices for manufacturing companies using various business processes. I think with this, I am now going to switch over to a demo. So let me stop this and switch over to my screen. Bear with me with a second. Okay. All right. So excellent. So you should now be seeing my Creatio screen right now. So basically, for people who are not familiar with Creatio, I'll spend about 2 minutes going through giving a quick overview of the interface, and then we'll talk about a few things that has been established in here. So first things first is that Creatio, as I said, is a full-blown CRM with low-code business processes, low-code and business process management. And that's what we mean by that. So basically, from a contact center perspective, when you're looking at it from a contact as a contact center, which would be customer service, or so this is where you can create support cases, knowledge base, queue management, and all of that. And if you go into marketing, anything related to marketing, such as campaigns, drip campaigns, bulk emails, landing pages, event management, so on and so forth. And then from a sales perspective, you're taking a lead, converting that into an opportunity, creating your orders, contracts, invoices, product catalog, forecasting, all of that is available, right? So you notice that as I flip the different workspaces from contact center to sales to service, nothing changed in the center. The contact remains the same thing. And that is basically what I mean by a true customer 360, right? So what this means is out of the box, I talked about siloed data previously. We eliminate that immediately because we are providing a single customer database that is seen by different lines of business. And therefore, Creatio solves that biggest issue that many companies face, many manufacturing companies face about silo data. We fix that right away. And of course, we have connection points with many other things. In addition to that, we provide studio platform. And this is basically where you can create many of these business processes, low-code business processes that is being created. So for example, if you want to create a renewal opportunity, we provide you a studio platform where you can use various elements, whether that be user-defined tasks or system-defined tasks, and simply drag and drop that functionality, and then you can create various kinds of workflows very easily using business processes using low-code technologies. So in this case, renewal opportunity, which I'll speak on later on, is simply going to read an opportunity and then create a subsequent renewal opportunity after 36 months or whatever the length of the contract that may be. So we'll get to that later on. So you can create those kinds of business processes. Then we also have web services where you can connect with different applications, whether that be ERP and so on and so forth. And finally, there is machine learning models as well. So we'll get to that in just a second. So first things first, you also notice that I've created two different workspaces. One is for product management, which is basically strictly used by product development team. So the idea here is that even though as Creatio, we offer contact center marketing and sales out of the box, you can create unlimited number of these workspaces and then make it visible to a particular segment of people. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if you are a product development person who doesn't care about what marketing does, what service does, or sales does, when you log into Creatio, and you have built in applications for yourself, we will restrict you only to product development workspace, and only the things that is relevant for you from a product development perspective, which would be identifying problems, coming up with changes to that product, and then doing some release schedules. We will allow you only that, right? So this is how we can work across different organizations very easily by doing that. And for the rest of the demo, I'm going to stick to the webinar workspace. You can see that I've picked up different elements of different objects, whether that be leads coming from marketing, opportunities coming from sales, and cases coming from customer service. I've brought in 3 different lines of businesses together into a single workspace so that I can become more efficient, right? So that is basically the number one. So with that, let me start off the demo. One of the key things that you heard me say over and over again is the ability to use AI machine learning models, right? So from a Creatio perspective, we offer 4 kinds of predictions inside of Creatio. Those would be lookup, numeric, predictive, and recommendations. So I'll just mention that very quickly. What lookup means is who is the best person, for example, what is the best product, what is the to have, for example, if a lead were to come in to the manufacturing company, who is the best person to answer that, to take work on that lead? It could be based upon geography of the person who is making up that lead. It could be the product that might be of interest to them. Similarly, on the case management side, maybe if you take an example of a smartphone has structure that would be structural based. There could be issues with so basically if the phone was broken, then somebody from the structures division should be able to answer that. If the phone is overheating, maybe there is thermal issues, so somebody from the thermal side should be working on that. So on the other hand, if it is a networking issues, maybe they're not able to make phone calls, then somebody from the networking department should handle that. So depending upon the category of the support cases, we'll be able to predict who is the best team to work on that. And that's basically what we mean by lookup prediction. The second one is numeric predictions. And as the name says, in this case, it's all about predicting the value of a numeric. A good example of this is as the salespeople are working on opportunities, it is predicting what is the likelihood of that opportunity amount, right? So that is basically a good numerical prediction. A third one is or predicting when a particular ATM breaks down, right, based upon case management. That's another example of that. The third one would be predictive scoring. This is to say that as new leads come in, what is the likelihood of this lead converting into a full-blown customer? That would be a predictive scoring. This can also be used in predictive breakdowns, predictive case management, so on and so forth. And finally, there is recommendation. Recommendation is basically used in situations where you are recommending a customer a product to a customer based upon what they have historically based out of. So let's take a look at the recommendation engine. I'll show you what has actually transpired in here. So this is how the machine learning is set up inside of Creatio. We are just saying that we are using a recommendation type and we are recommending a product inside of opportunity, and that is tied to a particular account. So in other words, we are looking at an account perspective, and then we are recommending a product when a new opportunity for that account is being positioned, right? In order to facilitate that, we need historical data. And I talked about data and data management in the past, right? So we are only going to look at successfully closed opportunities in the past, right? So we're now saying that only those opportunities that have actually closed or at least in the closing stages are being considered to make those predictions. And then we are saying that, well, we're going to look at it from an account perspective. We're going to recommend a product, and then we're going to make a, when that prediction date, what that probability recommendation score. So that recommendation score is 0.61, and this is being continuously being trained as a case may be. So these are all the things that you can potentially do. So how does this actually look in a day-to-day experience? So for that, let me switch over to the opportunity record. So I'll pick up a particular opportunity, 45 fast works, and if I go into the product set, you'll now see that in the product set, there is no products appear, but at the very bottom, there is also a recommended set of products. Now, this is being enabled through that machine learning prediction model. So if I were to pick up, say, a product right now and say, I'll pick up, say, a battery for right now and say I'm going to sell 10 different batteries to the customer, that product is automatically done. And now I'll say that based upon these products, tell me, and I simply hit on refresh recommendations. In the background, it is now kicking the recommendations, and it's going to say that, hey, when you sell these products based on historical data, these are all the various products that you should position to your customer as the likelihood of buying something else, right? So in other words, although we are selling them this initial product that was the initial interest, these are the products that Creatio is recommending using the machine learning algorithm that we have come up with, right? And when you position this and if the customer says, yes, I am interested in this particular CPU, then I can simply select that and I can add that selected products to that product line. So that's how simple it is in terms of making productions recommending products. So basically what we have done is when we are working on a specific customer like FastWorks, based upon the historical data, we are now making predictions as such. So this is how simple it is from my end-to-end experience, right? The second step that we're going to do is talk about business processes, right? So now in opportunities, you are noticing that at the very top, I have qualification, presentation, proposal, and contracting. A lot of time I get questions about, hey, how does this low code work? How are these various tasks coming through? Questions, the answer for all of those questions are in what we call section cases. This is what we call as an unstructured business process. And you can see that I have two different kinds of workflows in here, one that is partner driven, one that is driven by the direct sales. So in other words, basically, depending upon the division that we use in here, so if I go into the opportunity details, depending upon the division, it will pick the right workflow for me. If I pick up the indirect partner sales, it will pick up a completely different division for me. So let's take a look at direct sales. So basically what I've done here is I've created different workflows. So in terms of qualification, I've created stages saying that call the customer to validate. In the presentation stage, I have many other tasks. And then we go into the proposal stage where we get some approvals from the engineering team. And then finally, when we actually close the opportunity, you notice that I actually call something else, right? Now, if you notice that we also have the ability to create approvals, additional approvals, we can send out, we can create additional tasks, like that task has been done here. We can also send out emails. This is that automatic email. If you recall, earlier in the presentation, I talked about automating this as much as possible. And then anytime there is a little bit more work than that, we are actually creating a sub process. Now, you notice that when the opportunity closes, I'm creating two different processes. One, an automatic renewal opportunity. Another one is a lead for spare parts, because I know that when I sell these products down the line, there is a likelihood that this customer needs a spare parts, and I don't want the sales rep to rely on their memory to follow up and say that, hey, that product that you bought 6 months ago, do you need spare parts for that, right? That would be, you're relying too much on memory on that. What if that salesperson leaves? Then you're losing an opportunity to make that sale. So these are all things that you can automate by then. So let's take a look at the renewal opportunity in here. And this goes back to the same business process that I showed you earlier. Remember a couple of minutes earlier. So this is using reading the opportunity ID. We are simply reading the opportunity record in here. Then we are reading various opportunity products, right? So there could be more than one product in here. There could be, so we are reading a collection of records. Then I am adding a new opportunity record and saying that I am putting a 10% probability on that. And then then I'm simply copying whatever the products was in there into the next opportunity as well, because when it comes to renewal, I want them to renew every single product that was attached in the original opportunity, right? So that's basically what is happening. And then on the next one, I'm actually creating another business process to create a lead for spare parts, where I pop up a dialog box and say that, hey, do you want to create a new lead for the spare parts? sometimes there is most of the times you obviously want to do that, but sometimes there could be situations where you don't want to create a lead. Maybe it is one and done. In such a case, that business process will end. Otherwise, it will simply read the opportunity, read the account, and then it'll simply create a new lead on top of that. That's how simple it is to create all of these business processes and automate them. And you can see that these are all templatized, very nice and easy, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let me add maybe one more product in here. Maybe 5 products of this. Save it. Save that. And then let's say we are in the contracting stage, and then we have completed this task and we are in the final proposal to the customer. As a sales rep, I finished that task. As soon as I do that, it will then go into the closed won stage. When I do that, you notice that it's actually doing few things in the background. And then you will also notice that it is now popping up a new dialog box for me and say that, hey, do you want to create a new lead for the spare parts? And if the answer is yes, then it is going to go ahead and execute the remainder of the business process. Now, 2 things have happened in the background. Number one, if I close this opportunity, you will now see that a new opportunity for renewal was created automatically based upon that older one. And you can see that this was created right about a minute earlier. And also, if you simply click on that, you will see that it's at 10%. If you go into the product side, those 2 products are already there. 5 and 10 quantities, whatever I had, has automatically been created. Plus, notice that the close date is exactly 3 years from now, 2024, January 7th, right? Because that is how I have coded it. Now, you can change that, obviously, but these are all automation works that has been done. In addition to that, we have also created a new lead automatically. So right around 11:41, a new lead was created for FastWorks at the same time. So we have executed 2 things that are happening simply by closing an opportunity. So this is what I mean by using the power of business processes to walk people step by step, and then using these low-code opportunities to automate things so that you're not relying on your people to do those things, right? So this is a great way of combining those low-code business processes together. So I hope this was a good lead into that. So other things that you can also do is from a dashboard perspective. So here is a quick dashboard that I've created. So this is a fairly new one that came about in 7.16 or so. The idea here is that we have created different workflows, right? We are basically looking at active opportunities, not only active opportunities by different team members, but basically, for example, under Caleb Jones, he has different opportunities in different stages for 2021. So as and when those opportunities comes along, and I'm only looking at contracting, presentation, and proposal stage, I can then look at this and say, okay, how do I modify this, right? So for example, if I want to make changes to this, I can go there, I can simply click on this. I've created a list of that, and basically I've created a pivot table to help me understand how we can set it up. So basically, all of those tasks, owner, account name, and name, are different rows: owner, account name, and the name of the opportunities. And then on the column side, I've done it by different stages, and then the opportunity amount is how I'm actually looking at it. So I know exactly how many opportunities are currently in the contracting stage, how many are in presentation stage, and how many are in proposal stage. This is another way to do that. The third way to take care of that is also using forecasting, right? So forecasting can be done in multiple formats. Typically, when we talk about forecasting from a sales perspective, everybody is talking about sales, right? But forecasting doesn't have to be sales alone. It can actually span into the product side as well. But at least from a sales perspective, what I have done here is I'm showing you a quick example of forecasting that's been done on the month basis, and we are using accounts to help us understand how are our customers, top customers, performing in this case, right? And we are then further segmenting them by country and then by city, and you can continue to do multiple levels of hierarchy as well, right? So right now you're looking at it from a country level, then you're looking at it from a city level, and within each city you have different opportunities, and then it is telling me that this inside opportunity is scheduled to close in February of 2021, I am expecting $45,000 as a sales manager, but then it is currently listed as 52K. So I'm kind of overachieving on that, right? So these are all things that you can do. So expected is basically what you can type in as editable, and then in actual basically is the value that has been pulled from the opportunity record. And all I'm saying is pull all of those opportunities that are scheduled to close in the month of January 2021, February 2021, and Creatio automatically pull that information and position that for me. Now, you can not only do this, but you can also do it from a product level as well. So why is this important? So we saw it from a sales perspective. Product, we are looking at historically backwards, right? So this is slightly different. So the same product, instead of looking at it from an account perspective, I'm now looking at it from a product perspective. And then I'm going to divide that by category and different brands. So if you are a manufacturer, if you want to understand, let's say, your Toyota, you want to understand how many sales have happened for Corolla or Camry or whatever that may be. A category could be cars or SUVs. You can do this historically to say that, well, what did we sell from a quarterly perspective, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, of different hardwares and different brands underneath that. And this will help me do some inventory control for 2021. So this is what you can potentially do, right? Now, notice that if I switch over to the to the to the product side, give me just a second when I log back in. You can facilitate or provide that same information to the product development team. So you can see that when I log in as a product development person, because I am managing the products, I don't care about the sales. I am not seeing that sales forecast. I'm only seeing the product forecast, right? So even though from a main perspective, I'm looking at sales forecast and product forecast, but as a product person, I'm only seeing this one. I am not seeing anything else. So we will make sure that only the information that is relevant for you is being shown in here. So that is one way to do that. The second thing that you can potentially do is from manufacturing side is constantly new products are being introduced, right? So again, you need to have the ability to create some workflows on how do you introduce new products. So for example, I can create a new product over here. Let's say we are introducing a new laptop for 2021, right? And this could be category wise, it could be say hardware, and type is maybe some laptops. And let me go ahead and save that. So this is a very common things that happen inside of manufacturing companies. So we have created different workflows to say that from whenever you introduce a new product, it is going to start within ideation phase, right? You're going to start from an ideation phase. Like you're going to build a team of designers. You're going to understand what are the newer technologies that you want to work on, and maybe you want to research on similar products that's out there. So when Google Home came through, Alexa was already in the market. So definitely you bring in a team of designers, and you can start working on this. As you can see, basically I'm just executing them step by step to say that, okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to understand the newer technologies, research on similar products, and then once this task is done, then we'll do some market feasibility studies to say that what is the feasibility of this product actually going to perform very well. Once that is done, we will then go into the prototype stage, and then prototype stage will have different models, right? So in prototyping, you will probably build a CAD model in Creatio or Unigraphics. You may do some finite element simulations in a CAE simulations like Altair HyperWorks or ANSYS or whatever that may be, build of materials and so on and so forth. But basically, you can create these kinds of workflows. You want to introduce new product line, right? So how did I do that? Well, again, this was completely built using low-code technologies, using business processes. All I did was to set up a product release. And much like what you saw previously in the opportunity record, I've done the same thing to say that, hey, in the ideation stage, I need these tasks to be completed. In the market feasibility study, I need to do these things. Now, what is the benefit of doing all of these things? The key benefit, obviously, is that there is a consistent, disciplined workforce or work schedule or basically business processes that has been executed. Nothing has been missed out. And of course, if you want to make modifications to this, it's very easy. So let's say in the SWOT analysis should be done in the ideation stage rather than the feasibility stage. It's very easy. Simply drag and drop that in here, and that's how simple it is to make modifications to that. And anything that you want to, when you want to do that, do you want to show that in the calendar? Things like that can be easily done on the right-hand side. So that's how simple it is to create these kinds of newer business processes that you may not have thought about, or you may be using a completely different solution to do so. So basically what I'm trying to highlight here is that Creatio is that unique platform, low-code platform using business processes where you can create these kinds of things that you may not have thought about and derive some key insights, right? You're bringing in sales, service, marketing, product development team all together into a single place. And then finally, the last thing that I want to highlight, and I'll do that very quickly, is case management. Now, why am I bringing this? One of the key things when I was talking to a Japanese manufacturer, they make you may know them from their ATVs and also motorcycles. They're very well known for their motorcycles and ATVs. It's a Japanese manufacturer. So anytime when there is an issue with their engines or a particular vehicle, then there needs to be a solution that needs to be, or it needs to be raised to the product management team, so then they can go and identify what are the things that they need to fix on. So for example, in this case, let's say the laptops are overheating. So the case comes to customer service. Customer service is now working on this case management, just like typical customer business process that is going through. And as they're working on this, one of the key things that they always do is to see that has there been a case that is very similar to what is going on, right? And we enable that using what we call as subordinate cases. So where I can say, show me everything that has a subject line laptop issues, right? So when you do that a very quick search, maybe there is I think, let's say maybe, oh, okay, that's probably because I have already populated that in here. So none of them is showing. But basically, you can see that similar laptop cases have already been come through. So now I have a history of issues with laptops, either not working or overheating or defective. So basically, what I'm trying to say is from a customer service, we are seeing this case come over and over again. Now it is time for us to escalate this to the product management, saying that, hey, there is an issue in here because more and more of our customers are mentioning this issue. So we do that using the problems, right? So now we are identifying that as a problem, and now we have created a new problem. You can create something brand new, and you can say that, say, from problem 188, we are assigning this to somebody in the product management team and letting them know that, hey, this is the case that is actually triggered this problem area for the product development team, right? So we have done our part as case management. We continue to work on other things, but in the background, what is happening is the product development team gets notified that, hey, there is a new problem that customer service has alerted to us about laptop issues. So I can simply go in and say that what is going on in here. Oh, well, it's related to case number 47. Even though the case don't show up in here, as a product development team, I can go in and get necessary details simply by clicking on it. And then noticing that, well, it's not just related to one issue, there is several issues of laptops that is going on. And then I can go ahead and then come up with some work with the product development team to see if this is a one-off situation, is this happening over and over again, and then come up with a resolution or a change to that product itself. And then we can have a change management that is figuring out, assembling a team of engineers and either coming up with a workaround or identify the defective part, come up with a new design for that using business processes again, make sure that it's going through the due testing phase of functional testing, system level testing, component level testing, all of those things. And then finally come up with a release mechanism to say that, hey, we're going to come up with a release of how we are going to release those newly defined. Of course, you need to, first of all, do a safety recall and then work cumulatively with the sales and marketing team to come up with a release schedule on how you're going to deploy those changes to the existing customers, right? So this is a good way of bringing all of those elements together. So this is a business process that I just outlined to you, specifically in manufacturing companies where they have to work on many of those safety issues. So in summary, what I've done is kind of give you a high-level overview of Creatio as a platform, working from CRM, business process engine. From a trends, we noticed that AI, machine learning is of importance to us, so we definitely do that. We also enable IoT in terms of, as long as that signal comes from those machines, we can automatically create a case. We can work on those case management. I showed you the ability to create renewal opportunities and lead generations. The idea is to use automation as much as possible, dashboards, forecasting, and then new product introduction as well. So those are key things that you can do using Creatio. So with that, I am going to conclude the demo and stop sharing my screen and then take some questions. I see that there's a couple of questions on the chat. I may be able to take, looking at the time, I think we have about a couple of minutes, so I'll probably take about one question right now. So one of the question is, should we implement a low-code platform just in one department and then scale it to others, or a low-code platform should be implemented enterprise-wide at once? That's actually a great question, because this is a problem that is asked by many people. What we would recommend is always crawl, walk, and run approach. So ideally, we want to take one or two applications. Low code is typically used in situations where it is a niche application and not a full blown. So in other words, low code cannot be used to build ERP or CRM. You're building something like what I showed you, new product introduction, or renewal opportunities, case management, those kinds of niche applications. So you always want to start smaller. Maybe start with one department, see how that works, and then slowly scale it, because ultimately Creatio is a platform, so you don't have to do anything. So you can continue to build different applications, and as and when ultimately you reach a scale, then you'll be able to build much more complex applications. So the approach again is crawl, start small, walk, and then finally run. So I think we are almost at the end of the time. We have 3 minutes left. So I think with this, we are going to conclude our webinar in here. And once again, thank you so much. I hope this webinar was helpful to understanding what are some of the technology trends that we are noticing while talking to our partners, and how Creatio, using business process, low code, and CRM, can enable those unique business processes that I showed you. I hope this was helpful. Once again, Happy New Year, and thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Bye-bye.